Welcome to Bite Size Rando. My name is DR Kirby. Today we're going to try to learn about going through this room in Ganon's Tower with all these cannonballs. This room is sometimes referred to as Cannonball Z. Unfortunately, for this room, the timing and spacing of the cannonballs is dictated by RNG. So you can see in this save state, the first cannonball is lined up with a bomb icon, but in this case, it's a little bit further to the right, and in this case, it's all the way later and lined up with the arrow icon. So there's a lot of different timing and placement combinations for these cannonballs, and unfortunately that means there is no kind of one-size-fits-all solution to just dash across this bridge easily. That in mind, let's go over some different strategies for handling this room. The first and simplest strategy is to just try and walk across this room, walk across the bridge in its entirety, and this is what you're going to have to do if you do not have the boots. Couple notes on this strategy. So of course, if you have bad RNG, you're going to have to sometimes wait and pause for these cannonballs to go by. So you're just going to have to watch the cannonballs and react and make sure that you don't run into any of them. So you have to make little pauses. Another note is at the end you can save a little bit of time by cutting the corner here and moving diagonally. And that will save you a few frames. And if everything goes well, you'll get a room time of about 628. One more note, you might be tempted to use the hook shot to hook to these two blocks here. I would never recommend that. I have never found that it saves time. And in fact, even if you get your hook shot from further upwards, it can cause a lot of lag because there's a lot of different sprites on the screen. So I've never found this to really save time. Even if you do a long hook shot like that, you can see that I got a 632, which is slower than the optimal time of just walking. You can see here, I got a 632, so it's about the same, and that was with a pretty good hook shot. So sometimes it can even slow you down with the lag. Another strat for this room is you can sacrifice a heart and throw yourself off the pit and use the iframes to just dash through the cannonballs. And ideally, if for all these dash strats involving the boots, you'll actually want to do a second dash here as well into the door. So see, that time I got a 630. So this is pretty much equivalent to the best walking RG, but this one is 100% consistent because you'll have iframes, so you'll be invincible for all the cannonballs. Now, for this strat, one important thing to note is when you're throwing yourself off, it doesn't matter whether you go off the top or the bottom pit, but you want to make sure you're not hugging this railing. If you're hugging this railing, what happens is you'll kind of float over the pit a little bit. See how it kind of took me a little half second before I fell down? So you want to make sure there's a little bit of space between you and the railing. That way, when you throw yourself off the edge, you'll fall instantly as opposed to doing this little floating hover, because that will actually lose you some time because it'll take longer for you to fall down. So, come into the room, make sure there's a little bit of space, fall down instantly, and then start your dash. Start your dash to the right, and then do another dash upwards to exit the door, and hopefully you'll actually line yourself up with the door correctly. Let's try that one more time. And this should give you a time of around 630 or maybe 635 if your dashing was a little bit off. Okay. Now, there are ways to actually do a dash across the entire bridge. This is heavily dependent on your ability to read the RNG of the cannonballs and also just have good RNG, especially in the second half. Generals, I'm going to link to a video in the description that has some more notes on this, but the general strategy is to line yourself up with the top railing here and then dash sometime after the first cannonball and kind of react accordingly to the RNG in the second half of the room. If everything goes well, you should end up with a room time of around 521, which is a full second faster, so that's definitely good if that ends up working out. Now, sometimes you might get bad RNG in the second half of the room, and you'll be forced to react. So, for example, this cannonball's about to hit me, so I'm going to need to cancel my dash and then walk the rest of the way. Sometimes when this happens, you can also elect to redash and still make it through and recover some time that way. So I got a 609 that way. But in general, just be ready to react to the cannonballs depending on what they end up doing. Of course, some other ways to get through this room are by using invincibility items. So that is both the Magic Cape and the Cane of Burna. let's start with the Cane of Burna first. So you can activate Burna as soon as you walk into the room and then do a dash. But it's actually going to be faster to do an item dash. The way you do that is by pressing Y and A at the same time. And that's going to save you some frames because you can start dashing immediately. Now you'll notice in the second half of this room, Cane of Burna kind of causes the game to lag a lot because there's too many sprites on screen. You can mitigate that if you deactivate Burna once you've passed the last cannonball that's going to hit you. See, these you don't have to worry about these cannonballs because they're not going to hit you. So once you're past this cannonball, you're either going to quick swap away or just press the Y button to deactivate Burna, and that's going to help reduce the lag in the second part of the room. So deactivate Burna, and then once you're here and you finish the little ending Burna animation, you'll want to dash up into the door, and you can see that I got a 512 that time. So even a little bit faster than this optimal dash here, which was around a 520. So definitely you want to use Burna if you have it, as it is really consistent, and it is going to be even faster assuming that you can execute it properly. Remember, you want to deactivate Burna early and then dash up into the door. It is going to cost you a little bit of magic, but I think it is well worth it for the consistency and the safety, and also the time save. But by far the fastest way to get through this room is by using the Magic Cape. So for the Magic Cape, just like with Burna, you can use the cape and then dash, but again, it is going to be faster if you do a cape dash by pressing Y and A at the same time. That's going to let you start dashing right away. Now, you could just dash upwards and keep the cape enabled the entire time. That is going to be the absolute fastest way. You're going to get a room time of about 443, but then you have the cape on for this next room. You're going to have to deactivate it at some point. Plus, a lot of people like to have arrows out for this first room of the gauntlet, so you probably want to quick swap away from cape. So I wouldn't recommend that, so you'll probably want to deactivate the cape at some time after dashing, kind of like that. Now, there is a weird quirk about the cape, where after doing a cape dash, you can't actually toggle the cape off right away. So even though I'm pressing the Y button, it doesn't there's a second or half second of delay before it actually lets me turn the cape off. So if I wanted to do this normally, I can't dash upwards. I have to walk upwards and kind of uncape kind of when I'm halfway through the door, because it won't let me uncape earlier than that. So that's about a room time of about 516. But we can actually do better than that, because it turns out that you can actually uncape while you're in the middle of dashing, and the way to do that is not by pressing the Y button, but by quick swapping away to a different item, and that will immediately cancel your cape usage while you're in the middle of a dash, and that will let you just do the second dash right away upwards into the door. So quick swap away and then dash here. And that is really fast, so again, you'll want to quick swap away once you're past the last cannonball, and then do the second dash up into this door. And if everything goes right, you should have a sub 5 room time. So let's see, I got a 447 there. So that is definitely the fastest way to get through this room that I know of. And again, just like Burna, it is going to cost a little bit of magic, but again, I think it's well worth it given that you are consistently doing this room, and it's actually going to be the fastest way. So try that out in your next run. Again, if you have the cape, definitely use it. If you have Burna, you should also use that. If not, I would probably try to go for the optimal dash if you can learn kind of how to set that up. Otherwise, it is also okay to throw yourself off at the cost of 1 heart. This will get you a very consistent room time. And of course, if you don't have the boots or you don't want to take that 1 health of damage, you can just walk across. And that will be the easiest and simplest strat, but it is also going to be generally the slowest. So hopefully this helps as a comparison of the different methods for getting through this room, and you can try that out in your next run.